As the U.S. presidential election draws closer and closer, every day we see a greater rise in the fear-mongering mentality of the right wing grow every single one of these days. On a regular basis, some celebrity or some known personality comes out and says something that is ridiculous, that does nothing but create fear and an unrealistic view of reality. One of those recent incidents was Chuck Norris, who said there would be 1,000 years of darkness if Barack Obama was elected. The insanity of such a statement is obvious. It's almost biblical-like in what he said. It was almost like it came directly from the Bible. And I'd like to say, in contrast, if Romney was elected, we'd get a 1,000-year Reich. This constant fear-mongering, trying to scare people not into voting for Obama based on things that aren't real. Like, I remember that woman from Al Jazeera, not from Al Jazeera, but I saw it on Al Jazeera, the woman from Ohio talking to the media saying, before Barack Obama was elected the first time, saying how she was afraid the blacks were going to take over and that the entire country would end up becoming based upon reparations.
I'm afraid if he wins, the black will take over. It's not a Christian. This is a Christian nation. What is our country going to end up like?
And how none of those things came true. That somehow Obama is a communist, while he completely served the rich people, not the poor. Watching what they said and how they behaved afterward just blew my mind. And this kind of idiotic fear-mongering over things that didn't happen and won't happen, and not over the things that did happen. Nothing about the continuing murder in the Middle East, only about supposed vague notions about death panels that decide whether or not your grandmother is going to die. And just about every month, we hear about another right-winger who shot up a bunch of innocent people, supposedly the fault of Obama and the supposed liberal media bias, which should be correctly identified as a ruling class bias. Now this has taken on another ugly form. A man by the name of Albert Peterson shot his wife and his two sons, both 16 and 13, before shooting himself. According to a source that was close to the family, the victims, they said that he did not want his kids inheriting this mess. This man murdered his wife and children because of a supposed mess. And one of those things that's very commonly given out as an example of bad things to come is healthcare available to everybody. I'm not saying that's why he did this, although people in the comment section will claim that's exactly what I'm doing when I'm not. He killed his kids because, according to some people who knew him, they couldn't stand them living in a country with Barack Obama continuing as president. No, now it's okay, but possibly continuing his reign as president. He would rather have his wife and children killed by his own hand rather than have them live in a country where Barack Obama is continuing to be the president. People around him said, sometimes we thought he might take his own life when he was so depressed. We never thought he would take Kathy's. Kathy being his wife. Now, it's important to mention that he did have a history of mental illness, and that an uncle that he was very close to had recently died, but that he had a growing fear that Barack Obama was going to win a second stay in the White House, and that this was constantly on his mind, and this is what he was worried about. This is what he didn't want his family to go through. A friend of the family said that he suffered from a debilitating paranoia that was made worse by the upcoming elections. This person could have gone off at any time, but he didn't. He went off because of the fear-mongering paranoia that is coming out of the right-wing media. If Barack Obama wins, the country is going to come to an end. Which, by the way, it didn't in the first 4 years. But whatever. People like Glenn Beck and their sheer psychotic opinion, not matter of opinion, a psychotic opinion. With everybody standing up there telling how the world's going to come to an end and America's enemies are going to take over and the Federal Reserve is going to eat you alive, and all this completely insane right-wing garbage. This is what fueled him, and I honestly believe that's what it is. He could have gone off on anything, but he didn't. He went off on the fear of the guy who's already president continuing to be president. That's what really happened. No matter what bad presidents have existed in the past, his concern was that his family might be unhappy with Obama as president, continuing to be president. While there are literally tens of millions of people suffering in the rest of the world because of the things that Barack Obama has done. I mean, don't even count, the stuff that came before him. The 3 million people that have been died in Iraq and Afghanistan. And the people that know them that are now suffering because of that. The people in those populations who weren't outright killed, but have had everything they know destroyed because of that. And it's very interesting to compare the people who are being killed in the third world by the actions of Barack Obama and the amount of suffering that's going on. But this guy felt it necessary to kill his wife and children so that they didn't have to be in the country that benefited from what was happening. Now, we've all heard the phrase, first world problems. I could not think of a more appropriate title for this. This man, with his paranoia, tremendously fueled by the right-wing media, would rather have his family killed than let them have the benefits of having Barack Obama do what he does to the third world, Iraq and Afghanistan. Never mind the people who are dying every day because of what he does. Never mind the tens of millions around the world who suffer because of financial capital and that entire system that Barack Obama, not by himself, whoever the U.S. president is props that up as well. Millions of them are dying. Tens of millions of them are dying. And this guy couldn't bear the thought of his wife and children living under Barack Obama as president in the country that actually benefits from this. Mass murder isn't even enough of a good word for what happens to the third world. It just made me stop and pause and think about that. Think of the totality. The totality of that. And then ask yourself again, why does everybody hate America?